Hi everyone, I'm Shong from MIB College, and today we'll be doing the chocolate cherry Swiss roll. So the chocolate cherry Swiss roll, the flavor and decoration is inspired by the traditional black forest cake. So it has a bitterness from the dark chocolate and then a sour taste from the cherry. So let's start with making the chocolate sponge first. We have the cocoa mass. The cocoa mass, it is actually also called as the cocoa liquor. It is a pure chocolate. If you cannot buy it, you can also replace with a 90% or higher dark chocolate. And then we have the butter. So these two ingredients, we will have to melt it together first. Next, you will have the milk, then the egg yolks. Just mix inside the big bowl, mix evenly. So for the egg yolks and the milk, we will need to put it in the room temperature. If not, later after we putting the butter and the cocoa mass, it will get hardened if the egg yolk and the milk is cold. So next, we have our corn oil, also into the mixing bowl. Just mix evenly. So once the butter and the cocoa mass has melted, we will pour into the batter. And then we continue to mix until even. So over here, we have the corn flour, and then we have the cocoa powder. So the cocoa powder, it gives a more darker color for the sponge cake. Then we have the baking soda. Why do we use the baking soda and not the baking powder? It is actually to neutralize the acidic in the cocoa powder. So just stir together, mix evenly. Then next, we can add our low protein flour. Low protein flour, it is actually also known as the cake flour. So it will give a soft texture to the sponge cake. So just mix evenly. And then we try not to overmix the batter, or else it will form the gluten, which it will affect the texture of the sponge cake. So for this batter, to prevent it from getting too cold, I'll be putting on the double boil so that it stays warm. So for making the meringue, we have the egg whites, the salt, and then the cream of tartar into the mixing bowl. The cream of tartar, it is actually a type of acid. It is used to strengthen the meringue. So we start with the high speed. So once the egg whites has started to form up, you can add a little bit of sugar, half of the sugar, and then continue mixing. And then add another part of the sugar. So once the meringue has reached a higher volume, we change to the second speed, the medium speed. Why do we use the medium speed to mix the meringue? It is to form a more finer air bubble inside the meringue so that we get a more better texture. The volume will be better. So how do we know when the meringue has reached a medium peak? We will check by swirling the meringue with a whisk, take it up, and it will form a hook shape. So this is what we call as the medium peak. We have to fold our meringue into the flour batter into 3 parts. Divide to 3 parts. The first part, we fold. Fold nicely, and remember to scrape to the bottom of the bowl to make sure it mix evenly. Once the meringue has been folded inside, take the second part. Then continue to fold. Then add the final part. Now your batter is done. And then we'll measure 350 grams of the batter. But first, spray with a non-stick spray. Put a layer of parchment paper. Measure 350 grams. Then, we will spread the batter. You have to spread the batter as soon as possible. If not, the air bubble will start to collapse. And then, the sponge cake will have a lower volume. So now we'll send our chocolate sponge to baking. Chocolate sponge cake, We will bake at a 155 degrees Celsius in a convection oven for 18 minutes. So next, we will be doing our dark chocolate chantilly. So for the dark chocolate chantilly ingredients, we have the gelatin. The gelatin, it is actually to stabilize the cream by holding the liquids together. So first, we have to bloom the gelatin, which means to hydrate the gelatin in the water about 4 to 5 times of the weight. And then we have to leave it in the chiller so that it can absorb the water. So next, we have our whipping cream and the glucose syrup. So for these two ingredients, we need to put in the pot and bring to a boil. So the cream and glucose, we'll bring it to a boil while stirring to prevent the bottom from burning. And once the cream and the glucose syrup boil, we will pour it into our chocolate. So stir it until it is fully melted. Okay. So once the cream has already melted with the chocolate, we'll be adding in the milk. Then we'll use a hand blender to blend it. So just blend until it gets smooth. And next, we will be adding our gelatin. So once the gelatin is bloomed, it is hydrated, so you will not see any water inside, it will become a solid. So now, we have to melt it in the microwave. So once the gelatin is melted, it will become liquids. And then, we add to our chocolate chantilly mixture. Then we blend again. So to blend the mixture, it is to actually emulsify the fats and the water so that you get the more stable cream. So once we've done with the chocolate chantilly, we wrap it on the surface. Make sure it touches the surface of the liquids so that it doesn't dry out or it doesn't form any condensation. Then we put it in the fridge overnight. So once the Swiss roll is done, take it out from the oven. So how do we know when the sponge is done fully baked already? You touch the surface and see either it's bounced back. So if it bounces back, which means the sponge here is cooked. If it sinks down, then you need to bake it longer. So once the chocolate chantilly is rest overnight in the fridge, it will get hardened like this. So now, we will transfer into the mixing bowl. Then, by using a whisk, we will whip it until stiff. Start mixing with a high speed and whisk until it gets rise up a higher volume, and then until a stiff peak. So once the chocolate sponge has already cooled down, we will transfer to another parchment paper, and then we measure a 200 grams of the chocolate chantilly. And then we spread it on the sponge cake. So using L-shaped spatula, spread nicely and spread evenly. Here we have this Morello cherry, the frozen Morello cherry, which is also known as the sour cherry. Then we start to roll out the sponge cake. So how do we roll the sponge cake? I do it by taking the parchment paper, fold over the cherry, slightly press it, and press down the sponge. Continue to roll. Roll. Then press nicely. And you get your Swiss roll. Now we have to keep this in the fridge for 1 hour to let it harden. So while waiting for the chocolate Swiss roll to frozen, we will be making our chocolate decor first. First, I will melt it first. So once the chocolate is fully melted, I will spread it on either a stainless steel table or a marble slab, as long as it's a flat surface. Once the chocolate is fully melted, just pour a little bit on the marble surface. Then by using a L-shaped spatula, spread to a thin layer on the marble. By using this chocolate scraper, you scrape out the chocolate. And then you get your chocolate decoration. So once the chocolate cherry Swiss roll is frozen in the fridge, just take it out. Then you start to decorate. First, you have to cut the both sides of the Swiss roll. And then by using the chocolate Chantilly, I will bite on the top of the Swiss roll. Then I slightly spread it. Then I decorate with my chocolate stick. Just simply, randomly put on the chocolate Swiss roll. And then you sprinkle a surface of icing sugar or snow powder, red cherries. Just simply put on the surface. There you go, a chocolatey, sour and fruity chocolate cherry Swiss roll for your Christmas celebration. Hope you guys can try out this recipe at home. Thanks for watching and see you next time.